Hey, welcome everybody to the last segment of 10 things that we can do during this time of things we can't do. And the last is this, and it's an important one, and that is to dream with God, to ask God to give us more perspective on life and on our futures. You know, a lot of people have found that this time might be something of an unplanned vacation, staying at home for a few weeks, and I think we'd have to say perhaps a staycation, but I think there's more to it than that. I think that this can be a time that we might consider more of a time out, an unplanned time out. You know, during a sporting game, we're all aware of the fact that as the game is going at the speed of the clock, there isn't much opportunity to stop, to make adjustments. That's what timeouts are for. That's what halftime is for. And I think in many regards, for some of us, this is an opportunity for us to have a timeout in life, or a halftime in the game of life. And so I want us to consider how we can let God speak into those times. Now, I realize that for some that may be listening, this doesn't seem like such a huge change. Perhaps you weren't in a season of working life, and so you already had some downtime. Perhaps for some you've got kids at home and this is a crazier time than any. Perhaps for some you just are now working at home and things seem as busy as ever. But I want to encourage us to all be mindful of the fact that we do have an opportunity to experience life not being lived as it usually is. There's a change in our routines and our patterns. And from my experience in life, God generally will use times like that, times in which my routines are not what they usually are. Maybe I'm traveling, and maybe it's just a matter of the fact that something I'm homesick or anything like that. In such times, I'm able to have God restir some values that maybe I've lost. And I think many people even now begin to realize that God's beginning to renew values for family or for friends, and it's a kind of an element of extending that and letting God speak into the larger picture and patterns of our lives. I know that for me, that just having a change like this is challenging me to think about how to become a bigger and better pastor. And our team is feeling that, because suddenly we're thinking about people that we wouldn't have been thinking about in the same way. What are their circumstances? What might they be going through? And even in that, we begin to get bigger and better, hopefully. And I think each of us in different ways have begun to experience that. And so even as I feel like life has stopped and I felt the stop of momentum for things that I was doing, I'm beginning to realize that with a time in which I can't do the things as I normally would, there's an opportunity to think about ways that I can do life and things better, differently. And I think God is showing me that in this time in which there's kind of our cultural equilibrium has changed, that there's things God wants to do in this world and ways in which I can participate and be a voice in that and be a presence to that He has. And so, again, there's ways in which God can use this time. And my encouragement to you, in this last segment, is to be sure that we don't just return in a few weeks to the way things were and go through a slow return in which nothing is really different. By making sure that we realize that this can be that unplanned time out, that halftime, if you will, in which each of us can consider what is it that God wants to speak to us about in terms of our future and what's ahead as we reemerge. And with that, I hope you can continue to enjoy discovering that, in truth, when there's lots of things we can't do, there's things that we can. Bless you.